Good evening, Jennifer. Can you give me a mic check?
Excuse me?
Can you give me a mic check real quick?
Hi.
All right, thank you. You sound loud and clear.
Move my gavel.
Hey, Cameron, I don't know who did the mic check, but I was getting feedback on that.
Jennifer, can you give me another mic check?
Hi. This is Jennifer.
Okay, you sound good. All right, thank you very much.
So it sounded good on your end, Cameron? Was that Cameron? Cameron, check.
Amber, it sounded good on our end. Thank you.
Is it sounding good? Okay, I just hear it on my end. Weird. Okay, thank you.
Do you hear the feedback coming from us whenever we do a mic check? Or was it just
No,
our one time?
it's just on Jennifer's that I can hear it.
This is Laura. I heard it too.
Ah,
The second time it was better. Or there was less of it, I guess I should say.
Okay, I think Jennifer just had her speakers up a little too loud, and on the second mic check, she turned them down. So I think we're good.
Maybe we should tell.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our fifth community budget input session. We're joined this evening by Councilman Hernandez. We're doing City Council District 5 district meeting on the budget. Councilman at large Mike Pusley is making it 5 for 5, right?
Yes, sir.
We're glad he's here again this evening. Mayor Wahardo will be joining us momentarily. And then on our WebEx, we have Councilman Greg Smith, who represents City Council District 4, and he is here with us also this evening. So we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. This is on the city's proposed FY22 budget that I presented to City Council several weeks ago. And we're in the process of better describing the budget to City Council and getting community input on that proposed budget, so that ultimately City Council can adopt a balanced budget for the new fiscal year. That fiscal year begins on October 1, and then it goes to September 30th. So we're here in this WebEx or virtual format because of the high transmission rate and the increased number of COVID cases that are out there. And we appreciate the community being willing to participate in this format. We'd really hope, especially Councilman Hernandez, to get out there in the community. We thought we were going to be able to this year. Last year, we held these live, we held these virtually like we're doing now. We thought we were going to be able to get out to the community live, but with the high spike in COVID cases and deaths, we thought it'd be safer for the community and city employees to conduct them virtually. So I'm going to let Councilman Hernandez do some opening comments, and then I'll come back and kind of tell you the format of this evening's meeting. But we're glad that you're here. We're here to listen to you on the budget, see what you think about the budget. We have a small program after Councilman Hernandez speaks. And so what I want to do at this point is turn it over to Councilman Hernandez. And I do want to repeat, he was really hoping that we could be out in the district. We appreciate him being willing to use this forum instead. And so with that, let me turn it over to Councilman Hernandez.
Well, thank you everyone for being here, and the city manager's correct. Made a tremendous effort to try and get it in person. We reserved Veterans Memorial so we could have plenty of social distancing. However, after several discussions and probably a couple of arguments, it was better decided to be in a virtual just to be safe, considering the increased numbers of COVID cases with the Delta variant. With regards to this particular budget for this coming fiscal year, there's some really good things and there's some not so good things. For example, some of the good things, we're going to have 9 more code enforcement officers, 10 more police officers, 8 more firefighters that are all part of this budget, which I think are tremendously important. We're going to have additional funding for our water and wastewater infrastructure. There's also going to be a new stormwater fee that I think will actually be more in line with actual stormwater usage versus being part of the water bill. There are some other things that are negative. Solid waste has their capital improvement plan primarily funded through certificates of obligation, which I'm not a fan of. There's also program plan funding in the CIP that I don't necessarily agree with. There's also no real or estimation for operational impact of some of the CIP projects. But most specifically that I have a problem with is residential street funding. Unfortunately, District 5 is not getting its fair share of the funding for residential streets. We're only getting, I believe, 17% of the overall funding for improvement of residential streets. So that's probably for me the most egregious thing, and we're still having discussions about it. But overall, the operational budget as well as CIP budget have been improved over the last several years. I know I've probably beat up on staff quite a bit about it, specifically the CIP, the capital improvement plan. So I'll turn it back over to the city manager to start the program.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councilman. So in addition to the council members and shortly the mayor joining, we do have department heads that are in our WebEx that are here to help answer questions and really listen to your input as well that we received tonight. We have about 15 department heads represented, and that does include our fire chief, our police chief, our public works director, Richard Martinez, our new chief operating officer for water and wastewater utilities, Michael Murphy, and several other staff members. And so we're all here to listen and then respond to the questions that you'll have later this evening. And again, the purpose of tonight's event is, although it's difficult in this format, it's an opportunity to talk to the community about the budget and get feedback from you on what you think of the budget. There's a budget video we're going to show you momentarily, but there's also material on our website in the budget office location. The entire budget, Councilman Hernandez has his copy with him here this evening. And then there's several PowerPoints that you can use to educate yourself in the budget as well. So what we're going to do next here is show you the video. Our staff put together a video on the changes primarily that are in the proposed budget. Councilman Hernandez talked about the new stormwater fee. and other improvements that are in the budget. And so this video that we're going to show you momentarily highlights those changes. It's about an 8-minute video. And then after that, we'll have about 45 minutes to hear from you, the community. And we're going to answer your questions, take down your feedback, and see if there's consensus amongst the city, because we've been in all 5 districts, to amend the budget from that community input perspective. And over the past 2 budgets that I've done in the city, we have made adjustments based on these meetings. And so they are important and they do matter. We do have a moderator for that portion of the meeting this evening. That's our communications director, Deanna McQueen. And so she will help get those questions kind of packaged up and presented to us. People are watching this evening and are asking questions using Facebook. They may be on YouTube, or they could be watching this on our public access channel and then phoning in questions. And so a lot of ways to communicate with us tonight. And we look forward to Deanna McQueen helping us moderate that portion of the meeting. So at this point, we're going to turn it over to our communications folks who are going to start that video for you to see this evening.
The City of Corpus Christi has put together a record-setting proposed budget. City Manager Peter Zanoni delivered the fiscal year 2022 City of Corpus Christi proposed budget to City Council on July 27, 2021. The proposed budget for the city continues to address the mayor and city council priorities identified by the community. For the 3rd year in a row, we are increasing investment in critical infrastructure and quality of life assets, including streets, public safety, parks, neighborhoods, and our utilities, water, wastewater, stormwater, and gas. The $1.2 billion budget represents $258.3 million in the general fund, $238.3 million in the enterprise funds, $133.1 million in the special revenue funds, $118.2 million in the debt funds, and $420.1 million in the capital budget. The fiscal year 2022 proposed general fund budget is $298.4 million, including transfers, which is up from last year at $265.4 million. With police and fire accounting for 48.5% of the general fund budget, solid waste is $30.7 million, street transfer and lighting is $31.7 million, parks $20.2 million, and other departments like neighborhood services, library, and health total $57.8 million. Here are highlights of the proposed 2022 budget. Street maintenance and reconstruction will be top priority going into 2022. More than $121 million has been budgeted for street maintenance and reconstruction, with $43 million going to street maintenance, $60 million to arterials and collectors, and $18 million to residential streets. $2 million for an in-house street rehabilitation paving crew composed of 12 positions and new equipment, $750,000 for Safe Route to School program to rehabilitate citywide sidewalk infrastructure near education centers, and $880,000 for Vision Zero enhancements and internally illuminated LED street name signs. The police budget proposals include funding for 10 new police officers, 5 more than planned. This increases the plan by adding 5 additional police officers for a total of 30 instead of 25 officers over 5 years. Funds and upgrades to public safety computer-aided dispatch and record management system. Includes a crime scene mapping drone package and funding for construction of a new police academy complex at the Del Mar South campus. The fire department's proposed budget includes funding for 8 new firefighter positions to create an additional medic unit at Station 17 on Yorktown, the purchase of an additional medic unit, potable water tanker truck, and hazmat material response unit, and the funding for construction of a replacement of Fire Station Number 3 located on Morgan Avenue. Parks and Recreation budget proposals include $2.9 million budgeted for numerous one-time capital improvements at 10 area parks, $100,000 for the design of a monument highlighting the 5 branches of the military at Sherrill Park, funding for an additional 230 shade trees throughout city parks, and funding for the addition of 8 swim instructors to expand the summer swim instruction program. The Marina's proposed budget includes $560,000 for a marina breakwater assessment, funding for the reconstruction of People's Boardwalk, funding for dredging as part of the pier replacement program, the replacement and addition of signs throughout the marina, and 2 additional dockhand positions to support the marina 24/7. The fiscal year 2022 proposed budget also includes upgrades to the seawall and Mirador's lighting, seawall event programming, and facility improvements to the Art Center and Art Museum. Neighborhood Services budget proposals include 4 full-time animal kennel techs and the addition of 2 vehicles, 2 additional life release coordinators, an additional veterinarian position, 5 additional code enforcement officers, additional funding for demolition of properties that have become dangerous from sudden acts such as fire and natural disasters, and funding for fee waivers for non-qualifying infill housing properties. The library's proposed budget includes increased building maintenance at all 6 city libraries and funding for exterior improvements at La Retama Library downtown. The Communication Department budget proposals include upgrading the city's website and payment portal and adding 4 call center representatives for the new 311 call center. The City Auditor's Office budget includes an addition of 1 senior auditor position. Solid Waste proposed budget includes no residential rate increase, the addition of 2 positions for litter crew, the addition of 3 positions and garbage trucks to create 2 new garbage routes and 1 recycling route, and the addition of 4 positions and equipment to create an additional brush and bulky crew. Development Services proposed budget includes the addition of 2 building inspectors, the addition of 3 compliance inspectors for non-scheduled inspections, and the modification of fees that have not been adjusted in over a decade. The Corpus Christi International Airport budget proposals include capital improvements to the terminal building, expansion of the public cell phone parking lot, and the addition of 4 parking operations positions. The Water Department proposes the investment of $112.5 million over the next 3 years to replace and repair water distribution lines, and an investment of $145 million in capital improvements over the next 3 years to rehabilitate and upgrade the Owen Stevens Water Treatment Plant. Wastewater budget proposals include the addition of 8 positions for wastewater treatment plant preventative maintenance activities and capital improvements over the next 3 years to repair, rehabilitate, and upgrade all 6 wastewater treatment plants, totaling $118.1 million. Stormwater budget proposals include creating a new and equitable stormwater fee structure by removing the stormwater fee from the existing water rate and developing a 5-year program to upgrade stormwater infrastructure, increase street sweeping, and improve bay, estuary, creek, and river water quality. The Gas Department proposed budget includes the addition of 7 positions to support the meter replacement program and 8 positions to support the infrastructure replacement program. There are proposed increases to the utility rates in the fiscal year 2022 budget. In wastewater, there is a proposed rate increase of $1.97 a month for an average residential customer with a 5,000-gallon winter quarter average. For water and stormwater, a net zero increase is proposed to the average residential water customer that qualifies for the Utility Assistance Program, using less than 6,000 gallons. Water will decrease by $6.12, and stormwater will increase by $6.12. A utility assistance program is proposed in the fiscal year 2022 budget. The program will provide rate increase relief for residential customers that use less than 6,000 gallons of water per month for low-income households, seniors 65 years of age and older who are low-income, and disabled customers. There is no proposed rate change for gas utilities. The fiscal year 2022 proposed budget is balanced, addresses mayor and city council priorities identified by the community, focuses on basic city functions such as public safety and streets, and is consistent with city council approved financial policies. Now that the proposed budget is presented, what's next? To adopt the fiscal year 2022 budget, a public hearing will be held during the August 31st City Council meeting, followed by the first reading of the ordinance approving the budget. The second and final reading of the ordinance approving the budget will be held during the City Council meeting on September 7th. The City of Corpus Christi budget is the blueprint for the next year of programs and services. If you are interested in more details about the budget, visit www.cctexas.com/budget2022.
Okay, good. All right, great. Well, welcome back, everybody, and we hope that you enjoyed that video. Again, that was done by our in-house communications team. We want to thank them. They did a great job putting that together. And as we mentioned, Mayor Wahardo is now here with us. She came in during the video, so we're glad she's here. Thank you for joining, Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So at this point, we are going to have Deanna McQueen, our communications director, begin to help us get your questions and comments. Deanna is our communications director, as I mentioned, and she's done a fine job in our prior 4 meetings helping to moderate. So Deanna, I'm going to turn it over to you to begin that portion of our meeting.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. All right, here's our first question tonight from Facebook. With development growing on the south side, will additional firefighters and EMS be added to stations 4, 6, or 17?
Is it 18?
It's actually 17.
17, yeah.
We're adding actually an EMS unit to Fire Station 17. That's the one on Yorktown. For those of you, sometimes we say numbers here, but it's a fire station in Yorktown right by Billwhip. So there'll be an additional paramedic or EMS unit there. So we are adding, I guess, eight total to accommodate for that.
Right, and Chief Roach is on, so we want him to say hi to the community and expand on that answer if you think we need to, Chief.
Thank you very much, Peter. And Councilman Hernandez, you're absolutely correct. Station 17 is going to see a medic unit that is going to be assigned to that station in that area in District 5. We project that we could improve response times by as much as 2 or 3 minutes in a lot of the areas around the station, up and down Yorktown there, and to some of the new neighborhoods that are over in that area. So thank you very much, and thank you for considering that for this year's budget.
All right, thank you both. Let's see here. This is another question from Facebook. Does the proposed budget include new playground equipment for Wales Park and Breckenridge Park? There are a lot of young families in this area, and the playground equipment has been removed.
Okay, great. We those 2 parks don't sound familiar for the budget enhancements, but let me see if either from Dante or Neiman, they may be on another schedule to have playground equipment. We are investing about $2.9 million in playground equipment and amenities in 10 of our regional parks, like Billwhip.
Right, and just so you know, I'm actually scheduling some time with our interim parks director to do a tour of parks in District 5, I believe tomorrow, right after our budget workshop. So we'll visit those 2 parks. There's other parks that the equipment was removed as well. Stony Brook Park on Boston, the equipment was removed some time ago and needs to be. The Brighton Park also needs equipment to be replaced. So we're having to deal with a lot of neglect over several years, and it's hard to take care of it all at once. We've improved several parks, including Brockhampton Park, where we added new equipment and shade cover. So and there's several parks where we've done that. It's just a matter of time and trying to get enough, the funding over time to be able to get all those parks. So we'll definitely take a look at those 2 parks tomorrow.
Let me just see if Neiman or Dante, do you guys have any additional information on those 2?
We don't have additional information, sir. We definitely can look into it. We definitely have some of our parks in our inventory for maintenance to be addressed this year, and we'll check those parks against our inventory to see if they're going to be addressed.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, this one is for Public Works. When will an impervious cover map be available to citizens to verify their property is being charged the right amount for the stormwater fees?
Okay, great. Our Assistant Director over Stormwater, Gabriel Hinojosa, is going to field that question for us this evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Deanne. Good evening, everybody. What we're going to have available for the public is a calculator, because we are proposing 3 tiers within the residential homes. So tier 1 will have a less than 3,000 impervious cover. Tier 2 will have a impervious cover between 3,000 and 4,500 square feet. and Tier 3 will have an impervious cover of greater than 4,500 square feet. So what we'll be able to do is we'll guide you on what is Nueces CAD, which is the County Appraisal District, to find your lot size, and you can enter the square footage on the calculator, and then from there it'll let you know what tier do you fall in. And if you think maybe that calculation doesn't quite fit your lot, with the stormwater fee, we'll also have a resolution team available. So there'll be 2 full-time employees available to the citizens and businesses to resolve any issues that they may think they have with their impervious cover.
Okay, great. Councilman, were you going to add anything else?
Well, I mean, it's important that we fund stormwater, and I want to give you kind of a description of what we were spending. Roughly, if you take out the debt service from projects that we did with stormwater, we were spending about $14 million a year throughout this entire city for stormwater. And for a coastal community, it's really not enough. If you compare it to water, for within the city limits, we were spending about 92 million. And with wastewater, which is about 78 million, for infrastructure there, we were only spending 14 million for stormwater. It's important that we take care of our stormwater, especially our ditches. If you look at a lot of our ditches, some of them are in bad shape. If you go drive by them, you'll see cattails growing in them. You'll see a lot of where water is in them 24/7. We need a lot of work done in our stormwater so we don't flood anybody's home. Now, the way this fee is going to be structured is not necessarily to hit homeowners. Roughly, most of the homes on the south side are going to fall into the Tier 2 requirement, which is about $6. But we're also removing $6 off of your water bill to adjust it. So you should see very negligible change in your overall bill regarding stormwater. So the intent was not to address it. So, but we will capture stormwater fees for people that have like parking lots and don't even have a water meter. So it's to make sure that we're actually correlating stormwater use with the stormwater fee and not just charging you on your water consumption, which has no correlation with your stormwater usage.
Right. Thank you, Councilman. Just to point out, or just maybe to repeat, that today most people pay a stormwater fee. It's in our water bill. It's in the water rates. However, as the councilman just said, there's some accounts that don't, but yet they contribute to the stormwater system. So by having an independent fee based on impervious cover and the amount of water that's discharged into the storm system, that's the best practice used. And we are the last major Texas city to be introducing this structure, this fee structure. So it's an important part of our budget. It's also an important part of solving flooding issues that we have in our community.
Makes it more transparent.
Yeah, more transparent.
Right, makes it more transparent as well. And it's more equitable as well. Good. Okay. Thank you. So Deanna, we'll go back to you.
Yes, sir. Does the proposed budget include additional patrols by Ccpd in District 5?
You know, the police chief's with us tonight, and he consistently, or I shouldn't say consistently, constantly is looking at patrols and makes adjustments across the entire city based on things that are happening in our community. So we want the community to see our chief. Everybody's glad he's back. And Chief Marco, why don't you help to answer that question?
I appreciate that, Peter. And that's a great question. With the growth of the police department over the years, or the coming years and the past few years that this council and mayor and city manager has committed to and is doing actively, I get questions all the time, what's going to happen with those officers? Well, the majority of those officers will be in uniform, in patrol cars, and out in the street making service calls to this community. So that's a great question. Yes, we're going to be there. It's going to be in District 5 and other districts, of course, but District 5 is one of your highly densely populated areas of the city. The whole south side is. You see the training centers going down there. I hope in the future we build a substation that's on somebody's mind in that area, which is the right way, I think, since we're moving south all the way out towards the London district eventually. So I am committed to making sure the majority of our officers are handling calls and committed to community service out in the field in uniform in patrol cars. So yes, you're going to see them. It's a great question. Thank you.
And Chief, you may have said it, but this budget doubles the number of new police officer positions that we had planned to add. So
It
City
sure
Council,
does. Thank you
City
for that.
Council, yeah, City Council 2 years ago agreed in concept to add 5 officer positions for 5 years. So that would have been 25 new positions after 5 years. But in this budget, with Mayor Guajardo's recommendation and other council members, we doubled that number to 10 for this year. So that means if we do 5 for the remaining of that 5-year plan, we'll have a total of 30 new instead of 25 new. So we're happy about that.
That's a great addition, Peter. I should add to that. No, sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
You've already preemptively hired those 10 for the academy. That's in session to be working by next year. I mean, that's a big step. It's not 10 that you've committed to in the future for this budget. It's already in progress. And,
that's right, Chief.
Okay. And those 10 will spill out into the street in addition to the ones to our attrition and to the current academy in February.
And I want to give a lot of credit to our police chief and our police department. We're adding officers, but even with that, as far as a percentage to population, we're still fewer officers per population than Austin is. And they were in trouble for defunding their police. Okay, but and that's a testimony and credit to our police department and our police chief for the work that they've done in our community with the limited resources they have. So we're looking at, I know myself and Mayor Guajardo were very adamant about adding police officers. I made that promise that I want to add 5 police officers per year. We're actually adding 10 this year. So it's important not only for the safety of our community, but also for quality of life, work life for our police officers, so they're not tasked with a lot of overtime. So, but with that, a lot of credit is due to our police department. And by the way, their budget is awesome too. Just throw that in there.
All right. Does the proposed budget include plans for the reconstruction of Timbergate Drive?
Let me answer that, and that is currently no. That's going to have to be on bond, on a bond election. It is a collector with quite an amount of length to it. So it is my intent for bond 2022 to recommend a certain amount of streets within District 5. One of them is Timbergate, the other one is Acushnet, Aaron, and these are my recommendations to our city manager and Yorktown, but that it's sequenced after Rodfield's extension is built. I don't want to trap those individuals in Rancho Vista without getting out, having an alternate way to get out. As it stands right now, they have to do that suicide left-hand turn onto Yorktown on a 2-lane road with no turning lane. So I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to get them an additional way to get out of that neighborhood to a protected intersection. So Rodfield Reconstruction should be first. So those are kind of the ones I'm recommending right now. There's others that need attention, but definitely Timbergate is definitely a top priority on my list.
Great, yeah.
I don't know if you want to have Sarah say anything.
Sarah, can you tell us, Sarah, so the community will know about the IMP and how do you access that document?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I agree with Councilman Hernandez's explanation on Timbergate. Due to the repairs needed on Timbergate, it would need to be considered for a bond candidate. To expand on our street programs, what we have implemented last year and are rolling into our second year is our infrastructure management plan. And what that is, it's a 5-year rolling plan that identifies all of the streets we will be working on through our street preventative maintenance program, our residential street reconstruction program, our concrete maintenance program, and our in-house projects. So to access that program, you can go to our city website at www.cctexas.com and /IMP. Or you can utilize Google and just Google City of Corpus Christi Infrastructure Management Plan. And from that plan, you can either search through an interactive map or look on a list for any street in particular you're looking for.
There you go.
Okay, now this is what I'd mentioned earlier on that INP, on the residential street reconstruction program. District 5 is somewhat shortchanged in that program. We're only getting 17% of the overall funding for District 5. I think it should be an equitable distribution, and it is something that I'm adamantly against, and I voted against when we discussed it. I'd ask that you contact the mayor and the at-large candidates to help making sure that our District 5 is is given equal funding for their residential streets.
All right, thank you all. Now here's a question about pets, a subject close to our mayor's heart. To mitigate the stray dog issue, an additional 6,000 spay and neuters need to be done annually in addition to what is already being done. Will the second veterinarian position proposed in the budget be used for community outreach by providing low-cost spay and neuter to pets in Corpus Christi?
That's a good question, very articulate, and we're gonna have Joel, I'm trying to see if he's on here. Yeah, we're gonna have our animal care services manager, Joel Skidmore, is gonna help us answer that question. Joel?
Good evening, everyone. That's certainly a good question and something that Animal Care Services takes very seriously, the spay and neuter of our animal population. And we certainly are excited about getting that additional veterinarian position. That's something that's been needed for a while now, and we're thankful for the city council and for city manager and the mayor pushing to get that position for us. It's going to provide us additional resources for our community, and reaching out in getting into the community and trying to do more spay and neuter is something that a direction we definitely need to look at. Right now, we have a great working relationship with our partners within the community, from PAC to Gulf Coast Humane Society to Pee-wees, who do spay and neuter at low cost. That's something we're going to look at with the additional position. The additional position will relieve some of the duties that our current veterinarians doing, which should free up additional spay and neuters. At this time, that's something we're looking towards and we would like to be able to provide.
All right, now we have a question about splash pads. Will this proposed budget or future proposed budgets include more splash pads in District 5? They sure are popular.
Well, we don't have additional splash pads except for the one at Billwhip. However, we do have program funding from the last, from Bond 2020 to build an aquatic center at Billwhip. We currently do not have a city pool facility in District 5. So that is going to be coming to council for design. So not only will it be, you'll have a competition pool, but you will also have like a play area for kids. So it'll be an overall aquatic center. So in addition to that splash pad, we'll actually have something there. And, for me, having swimming pools where people can learn to swim is very important. We're a coastal community, and we need to do a better job of making sure that our children have the ability to learn how to swim at a very low cost. Right now, where I think it's cost prohibitive. But if you don't have the facilities, you can't do the training. So going forward, I think we should invest more in our swimming pools, invest more in our Learn to Swim programs, simply because of the nature of where our city is located.
Right, thanks, Councilman. Let me just add that a little bit. Councilman's been a great supporter for swimming and teaching children and even teenagers and adults on how to swim. So we're working towards a pledge that the councilman's made. The full council hasn't endorsed it yet, but that pledge is to give every Corpus Christian a chance to learn how to swim through a program with us or with our provider partners. So to begin on that goal, this budget includes, I think it's 8 additional lifeguard positions to increase, or swim instructor positions, I should say, to increase the amount of citizens that we can help swim starting next summer. So also Billwhip, which is a signature park for District 5, has a master plan that's about halfway done.
Right.
And as well as we're working on a master plan for the entire city's park system, but we're real excited about the Billwhip one, because that's a beautiful park facility
Well,
That's-
and this came through, I mean, before even the city manager started, I took him for a tour of District 5. And we went to Billwhip. And it turns out Billwhip had been there for a long, long time, but there was no plan for Billwhip. So it's hard to invest money into a park where there's no plan or design or anything for it. So it's just been kind of sitting there as a regional park with not really a program use. So through that discussion, we created we've funded a master plan for Billwhip where we can actually program it to make it into a really good regional park, and that we can use our community enrichment funds, which we have been kind of sitting there, to actually do those improvements. You know, with all the development around in District 5 around Billwhip, it's important that we have people have an option to do things at the park. Now, we've added the dog park there, which is really nice. We've added 2 bathrooms, a splash pad, but it has been kind of just hit or miss, not necessarily a real plan. So it's important that we do that, and then so we can get real good use out of that park.
Yeah, so we look forward to its completion. The budget also has $500,000 for Billwhip, depending on what the master plan says. We'll be able to use that money, whether it's signage, fencing. There is dollars that we put in the budget for Billwhip. The master plan.
I mean, a lot of that community enrichment fund should be going to Billwhip. That's all the development around there, you know, all that Rancho Vista, everything. So we have plenty of funding for Billwhip.
Exactly. And then, well, not in District 5, the budget does have one additional splash pad that's going to be at Cole Park. It's funded for installation at Cole Park to bring some of that water feature to our bayfront. So, Deanna, with that, that's a long answer, but all good information. We want to turn it back over to you for the next question.
Yes, sir. Here we go. Another Public Works question. Does the proposed budget include funding for Public Works to allow more street work to be completed in-house?
Yes, it does. And let me just say that we're adding another in-house crew. This is a stark contrast to just a little over 2 years ago where we really had no crews in the city that were performing in a substantial way. And so over the past 2 years, we've rejuvenized our crews, we've retrained, we've brought equipment that was in storage, out of storage, and into production. We have 2 highly functioning crews today. This budget recommends another crew, and we're still recommending 1 more in 2023. So after this year's budget coming up, we want to recommend even 1 more, so we'll have 4 dedicated crews in the city. What that does is we can perform just as well as the private sector, maybe even better in some cases, but it's at a much lower cost, and so that means we can do more streets in any given year. We do need the private sector. We can't do it on our own, but a lot of cities in Texas have that blend, the right blend of city forces, in-house work, and then contract work as well. And Sarah, our assistant director, do you want to add a little bit more to that?
Yes, sir. So I just wanted to add, in addition to the extra crew that we are proposing for our FY22 budget, we're also proposing additional funds towards materials. So our crews have the materials to perform the extra work that we're planning for this coming fiscal year.
And Sarah, do you have, I saw the councilman had the bubble slide there. We have significant increases in our streets in all categories year over year. So the budget is 118 million is recommended for streets, and that's up from the current year. And so we're investing more in the neighborhood streets and our arterials and collectors and in our street maintenance programs on all categories. Significant investment, more than the current year. That's been something the community, I know the council tells me all the time. It's what's consistently told to me by every council member and the mayor, is our community still wants more funding for neighborhood streets. And so this budget delivers on that.
$121 million.
121 million is what the budget is for this year coming up.
78 last year.
And it was 78 last year. So a significant increase, and that comes from the community through the council members, through us. And so it's one thing to have the money, though. It's the other thing to deliver on it. And by adding another crew, we'll be able to execute that work and get it done in that 12-month period.
Okay, and I just want to state that again.
Yeah.
District 5 is only getting 17%, which is not the full amount if you divide 5 districts equally, that's 20%. So we're not getting our full share. So even though we're getting more money and it's actually being worked, and I appreciate that, I still have an issue with that. So again, I would ask you reach out to your at-large city councilman and your mayor to address that.
And Sarah, I don't know if you, just so people, just to kind of give it a little unbalanced, Councilman, no, we don't argue or anything, but what we've done in that program allocation is we've looked for those areas that have the worst streets. And we know District 5 is a newly emerging area. And so we're trying to address those areas where the streets are the worst condition and there's more of them. And so some of the older inner city districts have streets that are older and in worse shape, and there's more in that condition. But we do respect the councilman's advocacy. He's done that for
Yeah, and we go back and forth on this.
Yeah.
And I understand they're going by the pavement condition index.
Right.
And District 5 has a higher pavement condition index than other areas. However, that doesn't really reflect on somebody that has a bad street in front of their house.
Right.
And I'm thinking streets that we have put on there, but other ones that we haven't. Right. We have some streets on the far eastern part off of Mansions, Twin Creeks, Quail Hollow, some of the streets that aren't getting to quick enough or that need work. And I'm just giving some examples. There's plenty of other streets out there that need work. Wingfoot, Meandering Way, that are not on the program list that actually need a lot of work. I want to say that, for those people that live on those streets, I do take the time to go and look at a lot of areas within District 5, and I understand, and I'm advocating for your streets to be done. So that's why I mentioned this at least 3 times about the funding levels.
Okay.
Well,
Good. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Since we're on the subject of streets, here we go with another question out of Facebook. Do we see an expansion or widening of Yorktown Boulevard in the near future, specifically around the new developments like Starlight Estates and Rancho Vista, and especially with the new addition of the Del Mar campus?
Yes, right. The answer is yes. And so in the bond that the voters approved last November, there's design dollars to completely redesign that Yorktown, Yorktown from, what's the initial street down to the bridge? Broadfield, all the way down to
The Mud Bridge,
the Mud Bridge.
going to Flower Bluff.
Right. So we know that area has tremendous development. It's almost, not every week, it's quite often we're taking rezoning cases to city council where what was rural land is now being rezoned for residential development. We also know that the Del Mar College is being built, and in fact, we're partnering with them to put our police training academy there on that south side campus. So it's a tremendously fast-growing area of town, has some great amenities. The council recognized that Yorktown needs a widening, and so the design money, in fact, the project is maybe even under design right now because 75% of all of our street projects in that bond are under design already. And then it'll be ready for a candidate project for funding for the 2023 bond program.
I believe LJA is the engineering company that's actually going to be doing the design work for Yorktown. So that, as the city manager said, it is under design. It will, hopefully it'll come in the next bond election for construction. I don't think it'll go all the way to Starry Lane, but it might be done in sections, getting over to, because it's a considerably large street and it's only 2 lanes. And so we would have to make that 4 lanes with a median, with curbs and gutters and stormwater. So it is an expensive project. Again, I want to make sure that we did the extension of Rodfield first to give those people in the Rancho Vista area another way to get out. You don't want to put, their only way to get out right now is through Yorktown. And if you have construction on Yorktown, everybody's going to be having to go out from Rancho Vista and all those homes in that area onto Yorktown during construction. So it's just a sequencing, extension of Rodfield out to Oso Parkway, and then the widening of Yorktown. So hopefully we'll, as we go along, we'll be getting this. So.
Okay, good. Deanna, we'll turn it back over to you.
Yes, sir. solid waste question here. Are there any plans in the proposed budget to bring back glass recycling?
Let's have our solid waste director talk about that. So, well, yeah, let's turn it over to David. I was going to add some commentary, but he's a lifelong recycler and can help answer this question about what he envisions, how we're going to do that moving forward.
Good evening, Peter. That's a very good question, one that we are really looking forward to answering. Glass recycling is a very expensive project for most of the state. And true glass recycling doesn't occur very much anymore. Taking glass bottles and turning them into new glass bottles is a very difficult operation, and it competes on a price level for the raw materials. What most other cities in the state that recycle glass do is crush it into a sand substitute or into a grit for abrasive purposes. And that's what we're working towards. We want to purchase a glass crusher. This would allow us to take all of our bottles and jars and reduce them to a sand-sized material. And then we can utilize that sand instead of sand. We can use it in our concrete aggregates. We can use it in our road base. We can use it at the landfill transfer station. Just about any place that we would use sand. And that's an excellent way to recycle the glass. By doing it that way, we avoid the very high cost of shipping. Glass is very heavy, very expensive to ship. And also the other problem with recycling glass is the fact that the different colors must be kept separate. You can't combine the browns and the greens when you're recycling them on a pure level. And so by grinding them into a sand, we won't have to worry about that. So we are looking forward to that. We are moving in that direction. Currently, we don't have a place to locate a glass crusher, but we are working with that as we move forward with the new transfer station that's part of our long-term plan. So yes, glass recycling is possible in Corpus, and yes, we are moving that direction and looking forward to the day we do.
Great, thank you, David.
Well, I have another question for him. Can you give us an update on the city's composting program?
That's another one of our signature programs. One of the first things Peter did when he came to town is asked why we didn't have a compost facility yet. And we had to tell him we were working on it as fast as we could. So Peter's a very big supporter of composting. I'm a long-term composter. And so between the two of us, we were really excited to move it forward. We've had great support from the mayor and the city council. They've all seen the benefit of it. And so we are moving it forward. We have purchased the property. We have property located adjacent to the J.C. Elliott transfer station. We have ordered a grinder due to COVID supply restrictions. It's on back order right now and it's not here yet. And we have engaged our consultant to help design and permit the facility. One of the issues is that TCEQ does have a lot of rules and regulations for it. And so we will be working with our consultant to get that moved through the permitting process and move it forward. We're hoping that we will have it pretty well completed by this time next year. Our equipment's supposed to start arriving in January, and so we hope to have it online and functioning within the next year or so.
And David, so today, all of our brush that you pick up at the curbside collections every quarter or so, and any other brush that may be dropped off at our J.C. Elliott transfer station, by and large, that stuff is unfortunately just placed into the landfill. Is that right?
Yes, sir. The majority of it goes to the Gullyhurst landfill. We deliver about 235,000 cubic yards of material to the Gullyhurst landfill that could be composted. And then we receive another 70 to 80,000 cubic yards a year at the J.C. Elliott transfer station that we do grind into a mulch-like product. It's very low quality, has very limited uses, and some of it also ends up in the landfill as well. So currently it's about 300,000 cubic yards of material, brush-wise, that goes into the landfill. And then there's another 40 or 50,000 cubic yards of material that we've identified that we can pull out of the landfill process and compost that as well. Our initial thought process is about 100,000 tons per year material will be composted. And it'll be a very high quality compost, able to compete with any of the other compost on the market. So it's something we're working towards, something we're really anxious and excited about.
Right, good. And so the point, one of the points is that we divert material from the landfill, save landfill space for generations to come, but also create a renewable product that can amend the soils, especially here, where some of them are not as nutrient rich as we'd like them to be. So it'll help things grow better, help our yards look better, and our community look better as well.
Yes, sir. And it goes even one step farther. By using compost in the landscape, it takes the sandy soils and helps them retain water so that you don't need to use as much water or irrigation in your yard. Compost takes a clay soil and helps it accept water. Most clay soils reject the water, and so it helps it absorb the water. And once again, you don't need near as much water to keep a landscape alive and functioning. And then also it provides the nutrients that we need so we can reduce the amount of chemical fertilizers that we purchase and put on our lawns. One of the problems with the commercial fertilizers is that if we use too much or if it rains too soon, they get washed off our yards and out into the curbs and gutters. They end up in the Oso Parkway drainage area, and they end up in the bay. And the nitrogen fertilizers, once they enter the bay, are really detrimental to the water quality. They help with the algal blooms and some other issues that we experience. So by using the compost in our yards, that helps reduce our water pollution. It helps increase the quality of our bays, helps our own lifestyle quality at homes improve. So there's just so many benefits of it. It'll also extend the life of the landfill. We'll be taking about 25% of what we put in the landfill now and turning it into compost. So just every which way you look at it, it's a wonderful product. It's a good program. I'm just wish we could move it faster forward, but unfortunately, there's a lot of hurdles to cover. The state has a lot of rules that we have to cross the T's and dot the I's. So we'll get there as fast as we can. It's not fast enough for me, but then I'm impatient when it comes to composting.
All right, great. Thank you. Deanna, we'll turn it back over to you.
Yes, sir. We have another question from Facebook on stormwater. Does the proposed budget provide funds to create green areas to help with stormwater collection? Have you considered incentives for businesses to create green areas within their properties to help alleviate the problem?
Gabriel, do you want to try to take that one?
Sure, sir. So currently in our CIP plan, we do have an environmental program that is focusing currently on the Corpus Christi Bay. So it's bay water quality improvements. So with this proposed stormwater fee, we can definitely grow on that program to cover other parts of the city, such as Oso Creek or any other estuaries around town. So yes, we can definitely plan for more green spaces. We can, Public Works can definitely work with development services to come up with programs that would, give businesses the incentive to create these green areas.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, we have another question from Facebook. Does the proposed budget or parks master plan include any improvements to Billwhip Park's baseball and kickball fields?
So as we talked about earlier, we're doing a master plan right now. We're about 50-60% done for Billwhip, and in the budget we have close to $3 million for 10 regional parks like West Guth, where Councilman Pusley is in the area from. But for Billwhip, we didn't want to identify exactly what we were going to put in there, so we have $500,000 in that allocation to that regional park. That the council will decide once that master plan is done. So it could be for those baseball fields, it could be for the kickball, it could be for any of the.
The question was specific. What was the question specifically?
Well, is there money in the budget for Billwhip for baseball park improvements, baseball field improvements, right? In Billwhip? Yeah.
But specifically Billwhip?
Yeah.
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 I would say yes. So just on that note of baseball,
Yeah.
I think it's next week. I'm gonna be touring every city baseball field that we have, and Billwhip's one of them. The fact that Billwhip has such, it's got a lot of opportunity to be able to bridge whatever gap we may have in terms of a baseball field. We may not have a complex, although we do at National, we have room for growth there and to improve, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it absolutely needs it.
There's a whole section of Billwhip that isn't even being used right now.
Right.
Exactly.
So there's definitely some focus, though, I would like to let them know
Okay.
on the baseball, well, all of it really, but the baseball park there has really been, it's just gone downhill.
Exactly.
So, yes.
Right.
Right.
That's great. So the mayor will be looking at all our baseball parks next week, and we know our son's a big baseball
Yeah.
player, so that's great. But again, the 500,000 for Billwhip could be used for baseball or any other amenity.
Right, and I mentioned community enrichment funds earlier. Community enrichment funds are generally funding that's provided by developers. In lieu of providing us a neighborhood park, they provide us funding in order to be spent on our regional parks. And it's, since, like I said, there's an additional funding source that we could use at Billwhip. I know I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head how much that would be, but a good chunk of that should be for Billwhip. I also want to mention, the Little League team that actually leases that ballpark have invested a lot of funding in replacing a lot of stuff and improving some of the facilities there. But you're also, there's also the roads that are there, the infrastructure, the parking lots. There's all sorts of things, and we want to make sure before we spend any money on it that there's a good design for that whole park, so it can maximize the utilization of that park.
And sir, let me jump in there as well. I wanted to plug the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, since there's been a lot of discussion on it tonight.
Yes, sir.
So the Parks and Recreation Department is working very closely with Half Consultant, who is the company that is assisting us with putting the Billwhip Master Plan together. And the answer to the question regarding baseball fields is the fact that it's really dependent on the feedback that we receive from the general public. We have no less than 3 different platforms where we're trying to receive that feedback from our citizens and stakeholders in the community regarding what they would like to see in their recreational facilities across the city. That includes Billwhip Park. If you go to www.cctexas.com/Parks Master Plan, all one word, you'll be able to see that there is a virtual town hall online. There is a dedicated town hall for Billwhip Park. There is a dedicated online mapping tool for Billwhip Park. And you can also fill out a dedicated survey regarding Billwhip Park. And from that feedback that we receive from individuals that do take the time and resources necessary to provide that feedback, it will guide that master plan and those amenities that will be installed in that park. So we highly encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity to provide feedback on what you want your park to look like.
Can you give us that link one more time?
Yeah, Neiman, tell us that one more time.
Yes, sir. It is www.cctexas.com/Parks Master Plan. And if you have any trouble navigating the website, please feel free to shoot us an email at parksandrecmasterplan@cctexas.com. That is a direct access to either a park staff member or a consultant with Half Consultants, and we'll make sure that we collate that feedback and assist you with navigating the online mapping tools.
One last thing on parks, I just wondered, in the 2020 bond, we had several parks in District 5 that are scheduled to be given new park equipment, and that's Crossgate, Brighton, Brandywine, and Captain Falcone that are scheduled to get new equipment here in the coming months or whenever they're ready. Maybe we can get some idea of when that's going to happen.
Well, I have another parks question. Folks are wondering if the city is considering adding more sensory-driven playgrounds in the future.
Well,
Sensory-driven.
actually, I've actually been to a park that has this in Midland, Texas. And it's designed to have for people that are autistic or have some disability, or they can participate in a park and have some sort of interaction with the park. So it's more of the equipment type that are in there. I don't think we've actually discussed that, but it might be something we could do for specialized parks that we can identify throughout the city. That is something we have not discussed, but I think it's something we can look into.
All right, thank you so much. And we have a question asking about more police patrols in District 5.
I think we answered this earlier.
We did.
Yeah, chief, we're gonna put the chief back on, but we did answer, but it's okay. So on police patrol, there's two things, and then we'll have the chief talk. One is the police chief and his team are always looking at how our resources are deployed, how the police officers are deployed out there, and he'll make adjustments to patrols and the number of police officers in areas of the city, depending on what's happening. There could be a spike in crime, a particular crime type, and so there's constant adjustments and movement of our police officers. And then number two, this budget has 10 additional police officer positions who right now are being trained. The positions are in the budget to be approved later in September, but we're already training those officers in anticipation that council will approve those positions. So we doubled the number of police officer positions that we put in the budget. There were supposed to be 5 that were part of a multi-year plan. Instead, we put 10 in because we know the importance of having the right number of police officers. And we know that the mayor and city council are very strong supporters of strong public safety. So those two things are in the budget, and the chief is constantly looking at his resources. But chief, why don't you go over that again with us if you can?
Sure, Peter. That's a great overview. I appreciate that. And another great question. We are data driven as a police agency. We do constantly research where our hot areas are, our call loads are, and we want to make sure we place our resources there. So in addition to the officers that city manager is talking about, is also buying the vehicles to support their initiative and the equipment to support the initiative of extra patrols. So you can imagine 30 extra officers spilling out over the course of a few years is as impactful as 3 full extra shifts. A shift is anywhere from 8 to 10 officers. So in the field, at the end of this 5-year period, it's 30 officers, and that's equivalent to an extra 3 full shifts of officers answering calls in the field. And our goal is more visibility. Of course, we want more proactive time. Right now, we spend a lot of time reacting to calls for service, and the goal is to move the needle to where we have more time to be proactive, to be in your neighborhoods, to be visible, to be an effective crime deterrent, and an effective member of this community's problem solving and making sure that you feel safe in your city. So our officers will be moving around to where the call load needs them. But in the big picture, they will be throughout the city. You're going to see more officers with all the training and all the extra resources that have been given the police department. So I look forward to that as much as you do. That's a great question. Thank you.
Okay, good. Deanna, we'll turn it back over to you.
Yes, sir. We have another question about the composting plan. Folks want to know, will this be free for residents?
Yes, well, that question may have 2 parts. 1, the dropping off of the brush material, and then 2, the compost itself after it's been turned into compost, or after the brush has been turned into compost. But David, why don't you answer that for us?
Yes, sir. That's a very good question. One of the things we want to do with the compost facility is make it so that the compost is available to the public, but we don't want to become a competitor with our local nurseries. We have some very good local nurseries that have been helping the citizens for many, many years with their planting and landscape needs. And we want to be a partner with them. We want to supply them with the compost and then allow them to sell it to the public. There is a cost to producing the compost. It'll be a very high quality compost. And if we just give it away to the public, then our local nurseries are going to have a severe problem competing with us. We're tax supported and they're not. And so our plan is to partner with the nurseries and utilize them to market our materials and work in that direction. We're still in the early planning stages, so a lot of this is future planning at this point. So nothing is cast in stone at this point. but the intent is to partner with the nurseries to make it available to the public through their networks. Dropping off the brush at the compost facility, and currently there's no charge for our residential customers. And we'll also be looking at other ways to gain additional feedstock materials, liquid beverages, and some of the food waste from some of the larger industries in the area. So those feedstocks will have a charge attached to them, but coming from a resident, there will be no charge to bring it into the facility.
Okay, great. Thank you, David. So Deanna, we're past the hour, and we want to be mindful of families and individuals' schedules. We said we'd have about an hour with District 5 tonight, and I want to be mindful of that commitment, make sure people can get back to things like homework and cooking and taking care of families. So was there one more question, or was that the last one?
It's a wrap. That's it.
Okay, that was our final question, the one that David just answered. So we're going to let Councilman Hernandez close this meeting out. On behalf of the city, as the city manager, want to thank District 5, and if there's other viewers from other districts that have participated over the past 2 weeks, we do see this as an invaluable part of our budget development process. We're glad we got the numerous questions and comments. We're glad our executives that helped answer some of those questions were able to listen to the community. We hope that by next year, if everybody or if more people get vaccinated and follow those safety protocols, we'll be low, or maybe the COVID pandemic might be almost over at that point. So we look forward to maybe getting back out to the community on next year's budget. But in the meantime, we think this is a safe way to communicate with you and keep that transmission rate low. So thank you for participating tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Hernandez to close out our meeting.
Well, I want to thank everyone for participating. I know we had 48 on Facebook, and I'm pretty sure there's other people watching on other mediums. I want to let you know that I do my homework, and I'm going through the budget with a fine-tooth comb as much as I can, looking at the numbers and trying to make sure that I advocate for District 5 as best I can. There's still some, with anything that has, $1 billion, actually it's 948 in revenues and a little over $1 billion in expenditures. We're actually bringing down some of our reserve funds in order to come in compliance with our policies. So it's important for me that we do the things that we need to for District 5. It's very much a growing community. We have lots of issues and needs. Like I said, we didn't have a swimming pool at all in District 5. We don't have a senior center in District 5. So there's a lot that still needs to be done. And as time goes on, also, if your street needs some issues, we're going to be doing the 311 here pretty soon. But right now, you would need to call 826 City if you have potholes. But other than that, if there's anything that you need from me perspective, please email me. Gil.Hernandez@cctexas.com, or you can go to the website and you can contact me directly. My cell phone is there, is posted. Thank you again for participating.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes this meeting. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe out there.